This is the Investor Connect podcast program. This is Hall T. Martin. I'm the host of the show, in which we interview angel investors, venture capital, private equity, family offices, and many other investor groups for startups and growth companies. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for joining us. Well, hello, this is Hall Martin with Investor Connect. Today we're here with Jason Kehoe of Baylor Angel Network. The Baylor Angel Network, BAN, is an investment network that provides early-stage capital to entrepreneurial companies. Jacob, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Hall. Thanks for having me.
Great. And so where are you calling from today?
I'm in Waco, Texas, sunny Waco.
Great. So what was your background before joining BAN?
Yeah, I have kind of an eclectic background. Most of my background is in the startup space. So while I was at Baylor University, I started my own business in the machine learning space. It used drones to survey property. And actually had the chance to start that with a Baylor professor named Wayne Hampton. He was a great mentor to me, great professor. I bugged him after office hours in his class a ton of times and convinced him to start a company with me. So that was kind of my first foray into entrepreneurship. I knew I always wanted to be an entrepreneur and was always interested, and to see someone like him who had done it before really inspired me. So we did that. I had an exit in 2019 after I graduated from that company. And after that, worked in some other startups. Most recently, I worked for a company called Startup Waco, basically trying to build Waco's entrepreneurial ecosystem. It was a, accelerator and incubator. And while I was there, I also started a program called GXG, which was a incubator sort of space for athletes after the NIL law changed. So that's a space I'm definitely interested in, and we were able to do a lot of cool things there.
Well, great. So what excites you right now?
Yeah, I think in that, in the athlete space, I think sports right now is a really fun place. We've seen a lot. I think in this round alone, we're screening about 3 sports companies. So a lot of disruption happening, especially as it pertains to college sports, streaming services, NIL. So that's kind of always exciting to me, but especially right now, I think there's been a lot of excitement right now.
Great. So we've interviewed many people from BAN before, but maybe you can give us an update about where the group is today.
Yeah, so we are, still doing really well, doing strong. Our director, Stephen Diedrich, has been doing an amazing job at stewarding the group. Yeah, essentially we've got a cycle coming up. We have been, analysts are doing a really, really good job. Essentially, we're really just serving as a connector with our investor network and the students and high growth companies that we believe in. So yeah, sure you know more than me, Hall. You've been a part of it for 15 years. I'd love to know actually how you think it's changed in the past 15 years since you basically were on the founding committee. So
sure. No, it's grown dramatically since we started it in 2007, really got going in 2008. And we now have quite a few more members than we used to. As you get more members, you can do bigger deals and later stage deals because you have more funding. So I think that's the biggest change over the last 5 years, is that the size of the group has grown to where we can actually take on bigger deals. And there is some interest in things that are beyond just the early stage startup as well. And I find that true with a lot of angel groups. They start off in many places supporting the local entrepreneur ecosystem. And over time, they tend to gravitate to be a little bit later stage, a little bit more professional about the diligence. And I see BAN following that same path.
Yeah, it's super cool to see your perspective too. And thank you to all you do too for BAN and everything. I appreciate it.
Great. Oh, you're welcome. Thanks. So for those who aren't familiar with Baylor Angel Network, why don't you tell them what they invest in?
Yeah, so we are pretty much investment agnostic. I know when people think about university-related ecosystems, angel groups, they think about groups that will invest specifically in university-related companies, whether that's the founders went to the school or they've got someone on their board that went to the school. But at BAN, we don't exclusively invest in Baylor-related companies, and so essentially, we really are trying to invest in strong teams and companies with some form of validation. Whether that's market validation with their, an MVP or a product, or if on the medical side, life sciences side, seeing some traction, if that's FDA approvals, medical tests. But yeah, we're not restricted to university alumni or affiliation. We're really just trying to find the best companies with strong teams.
How would you describe the investment thesis of BAN?
Yeah, so we're looking for companies with proven entrepreneurial teams with relevant industry experience in whatever they're trying to start. We'd like to see defensible and unique ideas and business models, paying customers, or like I said earlier, just some form of significant market traction, fundable and scalable business models. We'd like to see a thoughtful exit strategy. And at our core, because we are, with Baylor University, we want to see something that's complementary to our mission, Baylor. Whether that, supporting human flourishing, strong leadership, and ethics are a big part of what we like to have at the core.
And how important or how often do you look for an early exit in the deals that we fund?
Yeah, so we don't like to single them out. They're not something that is at the forefront of our mind, but obviously we believe that liquidity comes with valuable companies. And so we're kind of prioritizing just finding those companies that we believe are valuable or are going to be valuable. And we think that, eventually the exit will come or the liquidity will come. And so we try to prioritize that for the speed of the exit per se.
Great. And then on the VC side of the things, how often are we swinging for the fences?
I think it's kind of a similar vein of, obviously you want those home run companies. You want to try to find those companies to invest in and bring them in. But I think if you have them in there, you always want to bring them in and see what the network thinks about them, see what the members think. But I think as long as we're doing it the right way and wanting to make sure we're vetting the teams well, I think that's also why we have such a front-loaded diligence process with our process. That might be something I might add is, we do have an interesting process where we actually have student analysts and they're the ones doing the spearheading of the diligence. So it's about a 3-week process of just diligence in the beginning before they get in front of the members. And so I think we're really doing that to make sure we're bringing in the best companies. And if they are these home run type companies, then all the better.
And so where do you think the group will be in, say, 5 years? What's your vision of it?
Yeah, I think from what I've, talked to Stephen about and kind of our shared ideas and goals for the group, I think our priority is really to, just help the angels get connected with quality entrepreneurs. So we'd rather grow in excellence than numbers. Obviously, we think if we do that, the memberships will grow. Like you said, the membership has grown substantially, even in the past couple of years. And so we believe, more members and funding will follow. We're really just trying to grow in excellence. I think, or we want to be, the best, not necessarily the biggest. We think there's room to grow. We'd like to grow. We don't want to lose the personal touch and our relationship with our members or entrepreneurs and students. So I think as long as we're able to keep the relationships and that personal touch, we'd love to grow, but really we want to just focus on being excellent.
Great. So let's talk about the state of angel investing. How do you see the industry evolving from here?
Yeah, I think, obviously I think there's been a lot of corrections in the market. I think it's going to probably continue to a bit. Smaller valuations, on the deal side, we're seeing less deals being done. I'm not super pessimistic. I'm probably more on the optimistic side, but I do just think it's probably the correction's probably for the best, but I do think there's going to be we're going to keep seeing that correction in the market with valuations, which is probably necessary.
So what's the biggest change you think we'll see in angel investing in, say, the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think in a similar vein, I think we'll keep kind of seeing more. Hopefully, I would hope that we'll see some more conservative valuations. I don't know. I think there's going to keep being those big trends. It's AI right now. It's crypto probably a couple of years ago. I remember when everything I was seeing was about the metaverse or crypto. Pitch competitions or events, and everyone was kind of trying to push that in there. So I'm hoping that we'll have some less fluctuation and more just stabilization.
Great. Do you think angels will move to later stage deals, or will they stay at the very early startup like they are now?
It's a good question. I think from my perspective, I wouldn't be surprised to see them move later in the deal stage, just because of the fact that I think companies might be raising less money. And so there might not be these big pre-seed friends and family rounds. And even what we've seen with our group, I think we've started to even, invest in some Series A and keep investing on companies that are in our portfolio. So I would think so. I think they'll probably be moving to later stage, but it depends on also just the size of the deals and I think what the companies are trying to raise.
And is band still expanding geographically post-pandemic? We used to all be in Texas, but I believe we outgrown it a little bit. Where are we today?
Yeah. Yeah, I think definitely some expansion. Most of the companies I've been talking to obviously love Texas, got some companies in Texas, but been talking to a lot of New York, California companies recently. We've got one company based out of New Hampshire that we're screening right now that does a lot of business also in Mexico. And so definitely seeing that expansion. We obviously want to invest in US based companies, but even seeing some potential companies that are doing some international business. So I think there's definitely expansion, especially just with the state of the world and technology. I think it's just going to keep growing.
Right. Is there any focus on a specific sector or a niche at this point?
I don't think we have a specific sector or niche that we're focused on. I think there are some that seem to be recurring from what I've seen. I think we like to have a couple life sciences companies in our screening process. I think we're always going to be focused on tech, and I think we'll always like to at least screen some CPG companies. We don't have really we're pretty agnostic, I would think, on the sector though.
And what's your thoughts about crowdfunding? How do you view it?
Yeah, I think and like everything, I think it has pros and cons, but I think it's nice because it does offer a broad range of individuals to invest in ventures that maybe they wouldn't be able to invest in on their own. And for the entrepreneur, it allows them to, gain capital from a pretty diverse group of backers, which can be very beneficial and strategic. But there's also the limitations, I would think, are going to be really on the guidance and expertise that it would take a group of like Band to have, where managing that large number of smaller investors can be administratively challenging. And it can provide a lot of problems. You've got more people to deal with. That's always typically a problem. And so I think if you can balance that well from an administrative standpoint, it can be great, but also there's going to be those cons as well. But overall, I'd say I'm pretty positive.
And so if you had to, articulate the challenges for the angel investor, what do you think the main ones are in today's market?
Yeah, I think with the rise of, like I said, kind of before it was a lot of smoke kind of in the crypto space. And now it feels like every company has AI in their pitch deck or their website. And from my perspective, I'm always curious as to how valid that is or what that even means. And so I think a big challenge is just that tech validation at the early stage of, okay, what does this product really do? What does this technology really do? And so I think a big challenge is kind of that smoke and the validation that I think is required to really assess technology at the early stage.
Great. So always ask for your advice. You see a lot of investors writing checks these days. What's your advice for people investing in startups? What do you tell them to do before they write that check?
I think similar answer. I think validating the tech is crucial. And being able to, if you can't, I think bringing in someone that maybe has seen the company or a similar firm to potentially help you validate that, or to say, hey, they're saying XYZ, their product does this, they work with these people. Can you help me validate this? Especially when there's new emerging markets that are very, I would say, they get very hyped. I would say to definitely just make sure you're making a good investment, that you really trust the team. Because at the end of the day, we've seen a lot of these cycles recently with different types of technologies or different types of industries where they will raise an insane amount of funding, and then I'd say a large portion of them end up being, I don't want to say fraudulent, but they end up not kind of doing what people think they will. So I think kind of just, it's cool to follow the trends, and AI has been a really nice, emerging industry right now. But I think just making sure that you're trying to validate that and staying focused.
On the other side of that table, what's your advice for people running startups? What do you tell them to do before they go out to raise funding?
Yeah, I think being authentic at the end of the day and not lying is the biggest thing. They're going to find out at the end of the day, right? So if you put AI in your pitch deck and then we get to looking at your stack and you don't actually have AI or machine learning or anything in your product, it's going to be a problem. And so I think just staying true to yourself, and I think it's way better just to make a product or an MVP and get user feedback to get a group of users actually like your product, want to use your product, and are going to give you feedback, versus just having this trying to get the perfect idea or the perfect pitch. I think, I'd much rather see kind of a bad MVP that works or has potential than like the coolest idea on a piece of paper. So
I always ask this question for my own purpose of discovery. What
yeah,
online information source do you find most helpful in your work these days?
yeah, I've got a couple. I follow a lot of newsletters. I follow your newsletter as well. It's great. All of your media is really, really cool. I like from the podcast side, there's a podcast called Choir that I really like to listen to. They dive pretty deep into different businesses, start off in tech and now kind of just and all sorts of businesses and even Taylor Swift and stuff like that. But it's a pretty great podcast. I also, PitchBook's an amazing tool if you have access to it. And so just, it gives you great insights, and also the updates it gives you are pretty insightful as well. The ACA is great. And also on the sports side, there's a guy named Jordan Rogers who produces really cool content in the NIL space, sports marketing, and sports business space. So those are kind of the main ones I look at.
Great. Well, you see a lot of business models and new technologies out there. If you could start a business tomorrow, what would that business be?
It's a great question. I feel like this is a question I get pretty frequently too. Man, I think probably would have to be, I would think, some form of technology that was easy to just, work probably as a plugin. I'm pretty interested right now in white labeled tech right now. I think that would be really cool, kind of building something that can be used by a wide variety of clients that can kind of do the marketing for you, essentially. I'm always drawn to sports. That tends to be where I always get drawn to. But I think the next thing I do would probably be some form of technology that could be white labeled.
Well, in the last minutes that we have here today, what else should we cover that we haven't?
Great question. I'd love to know, kind of your takes on the market in general. What have you seen about? How do you feel when you are assessing, a company that says they have, something like AI? I'd love to know kind of what your feedback would be to an investor question and what an investor would have to look out for when they're looking at a deal.
So when I look at AI systems today, of course, the first question I ask is, what AI are you using as far as backend? Are we doing broad-based tools? Or are we doing narrow-based tools? We see a lot of interest in what we call vertical SaaS. That's where you take the domain and narrow it down to just one application. And the value of that is you can drive AI very deep and make it a very rich tool for about half the fundraise of a standard startup, because you've limited it. You need to make sure the total available market is still big enough to have a meaningful exit, but in many cases, it probably is. And so which AI are we talking about, broad-based or narrow, is one. And then second, where are you going to get your training data from it? And as you ask those questions, you start to separate out people that have a real in-depth use of AI versus a superficial one. There's a lot of superficial use of it. In one sense, everybody's going to have AI. So the next question is, who's going to have a more meaningful use of AI, and how do you monetize it? And what kind of productivity gains can we measure from it? Is it a 10x? Is it a 50x? Is it a 100x? And you have to start thinking hard about those things. And then quality control, other people's data is in there. What prevents it from making mistakes, and how do you ensure that, and see what systems or tools they have in place for that? So I think it's just going to the next level of discovery on AI to see exactly where they are with it. And over time, we'll get those list of questions pretty well answered. We are looking for still some early stage, winners that, they come out and they do very well, and they're solid solutions. I think that was one of the challenges I saw with the blockchain world is you kept getting conflated with cryptocurrency and speculation. And so it looked like a lot was going on, but it was just really people making outlandish bets on what the crypto price might do. And I was always looking for real world applications. Who's really making something that really works and people will pay for? And so much of crypto or blockchain, I should say, turned out to be very unwieldy systems that it just wasn't a good technological fit to the application. It was too slow. It was too much latency in the system. It was just too much overhead. And so the same thing comes out with AI. Where's AI really going to do well? And it seemed like the early use cases means it can augment people in current applications fairly easily.
Yeah, it's really insightful. Yeah, you can shoot me an email at Jacob_Kehoe, that's Kehoe at Baylor.edu. You can go to our website, BaylorAngelNetwork.com, to learn more about us. If you're a startup looking to get funding and want to reach out to apply, you can do that. Or if you're a member looking to get in touch, or a prospective member, or if you just want to learn more about it, learn more about what we do on the student side, the Baylor side, yeah, I'm happy to talk to anyone about any portion really about it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Investor Connect helps investors interested in startup funding. In this podcast series, experienced investors share their experience and advice. You can learn more at investorconnect.org. Halty Martin is the director of Investor Connect, which is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the education of investors for early stage funding. All opinions expressed by Hall and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Investor Connect. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions.